Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I had a twice-baked potato with smuggled cheese.
Ooh, nice. There's a certain cheese making another appearance on the podcast.
That's right, the Cornish Cruncher from Marks and Spencer's in London, the smuggled cheese, yes. So you poke the potato with a fork and then you rub it in oil. And I have this canola oil that is infused with shallots because I made a frizzled shallots. And so I save the oil. So I put like shallot oil and fine salt, super fine table salt on it, and bake it at like 400 degrees till it gets crispy and ruined. And then you scoop out the insides and you mash them together with cheese, and I put Worcester sauce and a little Coleman's mustard and chives and salt and pepper and a little butter. I could have put some milk in there if I had any. And then you put it back in and a little cheese and chives on top and brown it up. And oh my gosh, it was heavenly. Heavenly, I tell you.
Ooh, that sounds wonderful. And for our listeners, the smuggled cheese is actually smuggled by you into this country because you can't bring it in legally.
It is, exactly. So if any of you are customs officials, please turn the other way.
Yeah.
That's right. We smuggle it in. I mean, it's hermetically sealed. I can't imagine I'm bringing anything in that's harmful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
How about you? What did you have?
I had, for the first time, charred fish collars. I'd never eaten fish collars before, so I was super excited to try them. And the collar of the fish is really the cut of the fish that runs from the top to the bottom of the fish, and it's literally the...
I hear avoiding the button is the hardest part.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
I was like, I didn't eat a button.
I was just picturing a fish in a collar, and that's where it went.
A little
Sorry.
tuxedo.
Yeah, exactly. Just like in Oxford. I was saying like just a button-down shirt. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. The collars are that part that they're really right between the pectoral fins, and they run all the way down. Oh, and they start at the shoulder, the gills, and run all the way down to the fins. And I didn't realize how tender and absolutely fatty they are. It was pretty amazing. And then when I
wonder if that's the pork belly of fish.
Oh, I bet so. Like, I could have eaten so much of it because it was so juicy, so soft, so tender. And then when I got home, I looked it up, and I realized that the fish collars had always been considered a cheap throwaway cut of the fish, but they've been super popular in Asia for a really long time. And then the whole dish was served with little lemon yogurt and radish slaw. It was really wonderful.
That sounds lovely. It's like short ribs used to be the cheap throwaway. Yeah, some of those sort of... We've talked about our love of peasant food, so that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool. Hello, and welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate DeVore.
And I am Rick Fiore.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
Today we are talking about one of my favorite beverages, coffee. So, Rick, how do you feel about coffee?
I hate coffee. I've never liked it. I've tried really hard to like it. I wished I could like it because so many of my friends like it. And it definitely has that ritual thing that you do. Like, growing up, you used to always have coffee after dinner. And I'm like, oh, I always wanted to be a part of that. Sort of seems like all the cool people always drink coffee. Sort of when you were younger, you thought, oh, all the cool people smoke. I wish I could hang out with them and smoke.
I did that. And yes, I agree with you. And I did start smoking for that reason. Yes.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
I wish I liked it because I really understand how desirable it can be, particularly with all the new types of coffees that are out there, what you can do to coffees and all the flavors you can put in them. It seems really wonderful.
Yes, totally. Right. And it's how I feel about beer. It's the same thing. Like, I really wish I liked it. It would be so convenient. Obviously, it's really tasty if you like it.
And far more affordable than liquor.
Exactly. So, yeah. Well, I love it. I love it. I've gone through phases of removing it from my life for various reasons. And I still periodically cleanse it because I get to the point where I ratchet up how much I'm drinking. And it ends up being just too much caffeine. And I can just tell that my poor little adrenal glands are like, enough already. So
Totally.
It's usually easier for me to eliminate it completely, detox, and then come back to it in moderation than it is to cut back for the most part.
Right, totally. It's a smell that I always associate with my childhood, the smell of coffee, because my parents always drank it after every meal. And I just remember, it just filling the house. So I always have this huge desire to want to drink it. And when I smell it, I'm like, oh, it's so comforting. And then I drink it, and then I'm like, how? How can anyone drink this? It's like drinking mud.
And you've had it with stuff in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we had coffee in that milkshake that Judy served us, and you drank that.
Yes, totally. And that was more coffee than I'm used to in a dessert. And I tolerated it okay.
Because of the bourbon
Yes.
and chocolate and ice cream that was also in it.
Yes, we were just with some friends in Seattle, and she made us this wonderful milkshake that Kate just described. And I kept saying, Kate kept asking me about that coffee. I'm like, yeah, I'm tolerating it because of the bourbon.
Yeah. It was very tasty. I wish I had one right now, in fact.
And I wish I even liked liquor in coffee. I've tried the Kahlua thing. What is it, Kahlua and cream? Yeah?
Yeah. I don't love that actually as much as you would think, but yeah, I would think cream and sugar would be sort of the gateway, or like a mocha would be like your gateway. And it's funny you say, because you don't mind the smell of it,
No.
and that's one of the things I find interesting about coffee is that I don't know that I've ever met anybody who didn't like the smell, even if they don't like the taste.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder what that is.
Yeah. Like I love walking
it's just
into a coffee
nostalgia.
shop. I'm like, I can't wait to have some. And then I'm like, oh yeah, right.
Right. I don't like this. Yeah. And you've tried it sweetened. Yeah, you just don't care for it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
It is one of those things I keep coming back to occasionally. My sister, when we were traveling together in Italy, she had an espresso and I tried it. And I remember thinking, oh, it's not completely horrific.
Which is so crazy because that's like the most intense version, pretty much.
Exactly. I often thought if I wasn't as lazy, I could work up to liking it more. But, there you go.
When you finally get to Turkey, you're going to have to try Turkish coffee.
Really?
Yeah,
Good?
because it's really sweet and sometimes it has cardamom in it.
Ooh. See, that sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. So the earliest credible evidence of coffee drinking appears in Yemen.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yemen of all places. All right.
Yemen, I know. Which are you my friend who didn't used to watch Friends?
Yeah, to this day, I've never seen a full episode of Friends.
It's just so crazy to me. But there was this thing where Chandler was trying to break up with somebody, with Janice, and he didn't want to break up with her, so he told her he was moving to Yemen. And so that's what I always think of still. Even now, when there's all this important stuff going on in Yemen, I still think of... Because that was also when... what was his name? The guy who played Chandler on there. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but it was when he was in his drug addicted phase. So he was really skinny and angry. So I remember him talking about Yemen in like a really hostile and aggressive way. So anyway, and it was around the Sufi shrines. So it had a sacred element in the beginning.
Ooh, nice.
And the seeds were imported from East Africa. So once again, everything good comes from Africa, basically.
What are the chances? And we'll keep fighting that everything comes from Africa.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. The leading grower of coffee, producing 1/3 of the world total in 2016, is currently Brazil.
All right, go Brazil.
Mm-hmm. And as we will talk about later, there are some issues around fair trade and organic coffee and stuff. And there's more interest in that because coffee cultivation in developing countries has had a pretty negative impact, apparently, on some of on the environment because and water because of the way it's been marketed,
Oh, wow.
It's been grown. So I think there's people who are trying to make that better.
That's good.
Yeah. This is a random fact that I just had to share with you, which was that during the time of sailing, the British Royal Navy made a substitute for coffee by dissolving burnt bread in hot water.
What? Really?
And I just had a moment of such extreme gratitude for not being in a position in life where I have to put burnt bread in water to try to make something tasty.
Those are some real survival skills.
Yeah, like how bad must what they had have been that they thought, oh, this is good.
Do this.
I mean, my God.
That just reminds me, since you talked about sailing, it reminds me of my one little fact. Do you know what type of coffee was served on the Titanic?
No.
Sank.
Oh, Rick.
Did you honestly think you were going to get away without a coffee joke?
Without a dad joke.
All right, I digress. Go on, Kate.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good. All right, the last little thing I want to say about the history is one of the legendary accounts of its origin is probably apocryphal, but Sheikh Omar, who...
Not Sheikh Omar.
Sheikh Omar apparently was known for his ability to cure the sick through prayer. And he supposedly found these berries and they were too bitter, and he tried doing this and that and ended up making coffee out of them, basically. And then stories of the miracle drug became well known, and he was made a saint.
Oh, I love that story.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yep.
That's nice. That makes me happy.
From Ethiopia, the coffee plant was introduced to the Arab world through Egypt and Yemen.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah, totally. So there's a lot more really interesting history of coffee when we started delving into it. So we encourage you to look into that yourself on a rabbit hole day when you're on the internet. You just want to look at something.
If that happens to anyone else.
Exactly, right. Hypothetically, yeah.
Kate, do you know how many millions of cups of coffee Americans down every day?
I do not.
It is estimated 400 million every day.
Wow. How many people are in the U.S.?
God, we've asked this question so many times on this podcast. You think with our producer, Janice, you think she would have heard that question and had it ready for us the next time it's come up.
You would think. Well, it turns out it's 325.7 million as of last year.
Oh,
so
okay.
How many million did you say?
400
40?
million.
400
every
so
day.
That averages a little over a cup a day per person, which is interesting because one of the articles I read, and I found this suspicious, said most people drink only 1 cup of coffee a day. And I don't know that I know anyone that only drinks one 8-ounce cup of coffee a day. I mean, there's some people that do, but a lot of people have at least 2,
exactly,
I think, if you're going to have one. Because even a grande medium size from Starbucks is 1.5
right
8-ounce cups.
It's estimated in Italy people sip 14 billion espressos every year.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Do you know what they call a sad espresso?
No, Rick.
A depresso.
Come on.
That's the last one. It really is the last one. I thought I'm going to limit myself to 2.
All right, fair enough. And it was 1 coffee, one espresso, one. So fair enough. I actually had stopped coffee for years, and then a friend of mine gave me an espresso machine for home, an espresso brand where I use those little environmentally disastrous metal pods.
Oh, good.
And I love it so much, and that's what got me hooked back up again. So I drink more espresso than I do coffee right now, actually.
And isn't this really one of the great things about coffee, particularly those machines, is that you can get any flavor you want anytime, and just a little bit of it. It's really amazing how far it's come. I just remember my parents, they'd always make me open, not make me, they'd ask me to open their can of Maxwell House coffee. Mm-hmm. Then make sure I put it in the refrigerator so it stayed chilled.
I remember my dad's was chock full of nuts.
Ooh.
That was his grocery store brand of choice back when everyone was buying the cans of. Oh, it was black and yellow. You would recognize the label.
The can, probably. I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone bought cans of pre-ground coffee back in the day and kept them in the fridge.
And the really big ones, too.
Did.
My God.
Yeah. And now they're saying, once it's ground, it loses its freshness after like a second, I think. It's one of those. It's gone. The second you grind it, it's like, oh, well.
Flavor's gone.
And for years, I used to keep my coffee beans in the freezer to keep them fresher. And I learned that that's worse than the refrigerator, because it causes when you freeze things, the water molecules expand or something, so it bursts something inside the molecules and makes it less good.
That sort of sounds like what happens to fish when you fry it, or when you freeze it. Like the membrane sort of burst, and they lose their they lose their flavor and texture a little bit.
Oh,
which is which is why you're apparently never supposed to freeze fish after after it's been defrosted.
Huh. Good. So what did you find about how much coffee is safe?
Well, isn't this interesting? So this is according to the Dietary Guidelines of America. They're saying that moderate coffee consumption is 3 to 5 8-ounce cups a day, or providing up to 400 milligrams a day of caffeine. That's the amount that can be incorporated into healthy eating patterns.
That's what I have too. 4 8-ounce cups a day.
That seems like a lot, but...
It seems like an awful lot. Now, I don't know if they're taking into account how tremendously acidic it is and
how it may make you
things
feel.
like that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Because I can only imagine after that much coffee, my stomach would be doing somersaults.
Yeah, I often will start the day with no food and just coffee. And some days it's fine. And some days my stomach is like, I have coffee tummy.
Coffee tummy. They also determined that drinking 3 to 4 cups a day is most beneficial, and it's associated with a lower risk of death, heart disease, and stroke. And that was compared to people who don't drink coffee at all. People who drink 3 cups of coffee a day have a 19% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, a 16% lower risk of dying from coronary heart disease, and a 30% lower risk of dying from a stroke.
Yeah. And apparently it can help you live longer, because a recent study involving over 208,000 men and women found that regular coffee drinkers were less likely to die prematurely than those who didn't drink coffee.
This does not bode well for me.
It's okay. You drink a lot of water. But they think it might reduce inflammation, which is why it would have a role in all these other aging health problems, which include dementia, which is interesting. I don't think I understood inflammation and dementia and Alzheimer's, and slowing down the metabolic processes that drive aging. And also lower risk of liver cancer, which is interesting because the liver is the thing that gets rid of all the toxins. And I kind of felt like coffee had a bunch of toxins in it for some reason, but I guess it doesn't. And it's high in antioxidants.
Right. So is it really just the caffeine that they're saying is not going to be the most awesome thing?
Yeah, and it's addictive.
Yeah,
but yeah,
there's that.
Too much caffeine. Yeah, it makes your blood vessels safer, so it can reduce heart attacks.
I get that.
Did we say that yet? Yeah, and lower risk of type 2 diabetes.
All right, that makes sense.
Seems so strange. And so part of me was like, well, wasn't there all this research that said coffee's bad for you? And so what I found out was that apparently a lot of those studies did not control for other factors, such as smoking, alcohol, and lack of physical activity. So I guess they're looking at it now. So if people who drank a lot of coffee also had other unhealthy habits, you can't say that it was the coffee.
I should change professions because I think that's the type of study I would run.
Well, we've gotten better about it now.
Did you know? Hey, Kate, did you know that chewing coffee beans can help eliminate bad breath?
No.
Yeah. Been overdoing it on the garlic and needing to rid yourself of the smell of your breath? Those of you who choose to chew on some gum or even some extra strong mints are doing it wrong, as the answer apparently lies in the coffee bean. Chewing on the roasted coffee bean can go some way to ridding you of your garlic or onion breath.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because coffee breath is gross if you drink the coffee.
And I can smell it on people.
Yeah, and it's not pleasant. And then the other thing that's fascinating about that is that if you're in a perfume store or a soap store, something where there's a lot of strong smells, you if your nose goes dead, and you can't smell stuff anymore, you're supposed to sniff coffee beans, and it helps to kind of reactivate your olfactory sense. So there has to be some connection there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They also say other good options to freshen your breath include parsley or mint leaves.
Parsley, that's one of the reasons it supposedly is a garnish on plates, is that you're supposed to eat it after the meal as like a sort of breath freshener. Yeah, my mom taught me that when I was, of course, my mom, when I was a little kid, because she would eat it and I'd be like, ew, and she would explain.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So from here on out, we're about to hear some on the scene. What's the word for that? Recordings that we did.
It's not live. It's on location.
It's on location.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Kate and I were in Seattle, and I had gotten there a few days. Kate had a conference. I got there a few days early before we hooked up, and I was texting Kate. I was like, oh my God, Kate, do you know in Seattle they have what's called Starbucks Reserve? And she's like, no. And apparently I had been told by a tour guide that it's this really fancy version of Starbucks that they're rolling out. It's high-end stuff. They do sort of some more science in the store, and then they have different sort of tastings you can do. And we were like, must go there immediately. And apparently everything was going to cost like $10.
But it didn't really.
No, it was not that much pricier. So Starbucks Reserve they have a bunch of them in Seattle, and they're getting ready to launch 1,000 of them worldwide.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so you may see one in your neighborhood quickly. So how would you describe it? I mean, you're the coffee drinker.
I loved it. They didn't just have the normal menu at all. They had a completely different menu. And you had all these different flights you could order of different ways to sample different methods of brewing coffee. So they had a bunch of coffees, and they also had some interesting different coffee drinks. So I would like to go back multiple times to try all the different things that they had on the menu. But the thing that was the most striking were these flights.
This seems fun. I got to try the flights with Kate, so you'll certainly see how that went down.
Exactly. I insisted that he do a tasting. I'm like, I had to try beer. You're going to try coffee.
It's tough times, people. Tough times.
Yeah. I would say that I probably enjoyed the beer more than Rick enjoyed the coffee.
I would agree. And while Kate was drinking all of her coffee, I just sat there with my cup of chai.
It was a very nice chai latte.
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we had a little bonus because there was a mistake in the order. So as you'll hear, I ended up getting to try the same coffee bean brewed 4 different ways and do a little comparison of that.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it was really terrific. So we are going to turn you over to that. But before we do, we ask you to
subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. And then you can certainly follow our Facebook page. You won't believe what I ate last night. You can also follow us on Instagram. And you can also follow us, where else, Kate? At our website, youwon'tbelievewhatIate.com. We post lots of fun stuff up there.
Oh, one last thing. Apparently, people do coffee enemas.
I've heard of coffee enemas.
I have heard both that they are very healing and also that they are potentially dangerous.
I've only heard that they're dangerous. I have not heard about the healing aspects of coffee enemas.
Yeah. I was introduced to them from a healer, and apparently it does stuff.
So you overall, how do you feel about coffee relating to your health? Do you feel, aside from, I know that you like it in the mornings generally for like the boost, right? And the caffeine, do you sense anything else or get anything else from it?
I really can't tell. I don't know. I mean, I like the caffeine and the boost of it. I also really like the taste of it so much that it's a really just lovely thing to wake up to. I don't know. I don't perceive, I honestly, to be honest, I don't perceive any health benefits from it, or,
Right.
I don't feel noticeably different with and without it, other than the caffeine, which is noticeable when I go on and off of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy, y'all. Okay, so this is a comparison of 2 cold brew coffees. They're both the Congo small lot coffee, which comes from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And yeah, they claim there's blood orange and black plum notes with a sugar cane sweetness. These are both cold brew. One of them is regular cold brew and one of them is nitro, which means that they forced nitrogen through it to aerate it, I guess. So I'm going to try the regular one first. Tasty, light, smooth. All right. And now the cold brew, which looks like a Guinness.
It does, doesn't it?
Wow, it's like it's almost carbonated, which I guess is the point.
Yeah.
I don't like it as much.
Okay.
I don't like the nitro one as much. I like the regular, but the cold brew one is delicious.
And the other thing I was able to order here, since I don't like coffee, was their classic chai tea latte. I can't wait to see if it's different. It doesn't look any different from the menu description.
It's a beautiful mug, though.
It is a beautiful mug with a little design on the top of a leaf. Well, I will say the foam on top is creamier and denser.
All right.
The flavor of the actual chai seems pretty much the same.
Okay.
The foam is also super rich. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. They have so many interesting drinks on this menu. I wonder if it's going to make its way across the country. They have something called a Reserve Strato, which is a creamy coffee flavored. It looks like a really fancy frappuccino, basically. It's finished with an espresso float that drips down through the creaminess.
Brilliant.
Which looks gorgeous in the pictures. They have something called a siphon experience, which I got a picture of. We'll put up there. Which I don't know what they do, but it looks really cool. And they have a nitro dirty chai, where the cold brew nitro, which is this, is poured through the chai cream foam.
Nice.
And I bet it's super delicious. They have a spiced ginger cold brew. That sounds amazing, with a cinnamon ginger syrup. They have a coffee version of a Manhattan cocktail made with cherry bitters.
Oh, I so would love to try that.
Yeah, fun. It's interesting that they don't have the same food vendors as a normal Starbucks. They have really fresh-looking sandwiches up there that do not seem to be their normal Starbucks things.
Shipped in and frozen sometimes.
Exactly. So I'm reading about this Congo coffee and the guy who is doing it. Apparently it was...
round 2.
Yay!
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'll get this one out of your way.
Wow, look at that. Isn't that fancy?
By the way,
That was just a teaser.
thank you. And this was regular cold brew and that's nitro?
Yep, same
I like
coffee.
the regular one so much better.
I do too. Same coffee as that too.
So excited.
I'm glad you are. I would start with the pour over because it's a little brighter and generally pour over is a little brighter. And you don't want the deeper notes to kind of coat your tongue and overpower. Definitely drink some sparkling water in between so you can really cleanse the palate. And
That's genius. Can you explain what the clover is?
it's kind of like a coffee press, you know, coffee presses?
Yeah.
But upside down. So it's a full immersion brew method. It uses a lot of coffee and just gets it real quick. Kind of like a really expensive Keurig.
Okay.
It makes it kind of more medium, brings out a really just even note to it, so it's not too great. It's not too full body. It's wonderful.
Awesome.
And then pour over is the wonderful pour over that brightens it up, filters out more of those oils and sediments. It's really
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you got, you know.
I know. Bonus.
That's what I meant to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm reading about the guy, Gilbert Makalele, who has been making it safer to be a coffee farmer in the Congo. And he said, I started it because I wanted to fight poverty and support peace in Congo. The story behind our coffee is to prevent suffering, to restore hope and meaning to lives.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah. All right. Sparkling water in between. I love that. That is so damn cute.
It's so fancy pants.
All right. It's got a little clipboard thing. All right, Rick. Since we have the cups,
Yeah.
and they're so cute.
They are adorable. I do love these cups. This is a great teacup. I don't need any more though.
So this is the pour-over one in the cutest little cups in the entire world, which makes everything taste better. Smells like coffee.
Smells strong and disgusting.
Oh, it's nice. It's. Oh my God! I wish you could see Rick's face.
It just tastes like how coffee always tastes to me.
Yeah.
Like I've just landed face down in a mud pile.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna compare them in a minute. So this one is on the medium side. It's not as heavy as like an espresso or anything.
The cup is really cute. I may steal one. Not really.
It's really nice. I don't always drink regular coffee black, but this is really nice black. It's very smooth, the pour over. It's certainly bitter, but it's not unpleasantly bitter. If I were to drink a whole cup of it, I might want a little cream. But for the taste serving, black is great. All right, now we're going to have a little sparkling water to clear our palate, like she said. I can't believe they do that. That is so cute.
They give us little shot glasses of water to cleanse the
I
palate.
think this one is sparkling. I don't think that one is.
It is.
Oh, it is? They both are? Awesome. All right. Here we
I
go.
want all 4 of these cups.
Oh my God. Now we're having the clover taste, which I'm excited about because I have actually had coffee from a clover before and it's amazing. But I haven't done a taste test, which is really fun. All right. Oh my gosh.
Now,
it's so good.
Does
Take
this
a
even
picture.
smell different than the last one to you? Because it smells, I'm going to say, almost the same to me.
I do not detect a difference in the nose. I think the flavor is much richer and more full-bodied.
This one took longer to make me sick.
Oh, that's good. Okay. All right.
I got it in my mouth a little bit more.
I much prefer the clover. It's richer and rounder as you're drinking it, and then it has less of the bitter aftertaste. So of the 4 versions of this coffee that I had, all of which tasted different, I would rank them, my preference as the clover first, regular cold brew second, pour over third, and nitro fourth.
Nitro fourth, yeah. Did you always like the taste of coffee from the first time you had it? Because I often wonder if, I kept at it, would I eventually acquire a taste for it?
I feel like I may have tried my dad's coffee when I was younger, because I always had sips of everything that they served, wine and sherry and stuff, when I was a kid, and I probably had coffee. My dad drank his coffee black, and I don't recall if I had sips. I just can't think that I wouldn't have, and I certainly didn't like it. But when I first started drinking it and liking it was in high school. And Susan Carnahan was our Spanish teacher, and she was also I want to say the stage crew person or something, and she was doing this immersive language learning thing, and I was going in the mornings, and I was doing some kind of language drilling. I can't remember what the name of it is. It was really popular in the 80s and 90s as a way of learning language, and so I was learning how to do it, and I would go in early, and I loved Susan Carnahan. I definitely had a teacher crush on her.
I love the name Susan Carnahan. I hope you say it a few more times.
She was so cool. She was beautiful and cool, and I think she was getting divorced, and she confided in me, maybe a little inappropriately, as a high school student, about her personal life, and it was just, I felt like we were friends, and she would bring a thermos of coffee with cream and sugar.
Oh my God.
And we would drink it together, and I would have drunk it if it was vomit.
Where did you drink it?
Sometimes in her car, sometimes in the classroom. Yeah,
that's sweet.
It was so cool, and so I liked it, and so I don't know if I liked the coffee or if I liked the experience. And then I think even in college we used to get Diet Cokes. That was our drink. I didn't drink coffee regularly until I had a coffee maker in my room. I started drinking it in college. Yeah, so it was not a tough learning curve for me. I think my instinct was to like it, which is funny because I don't like bitter things usually, and coffee's super bitter.
I remember trying it very young when my parents had it, because they basically basic stuff. They'd always have Maxwell, and they would make that. And the only thing I remember about it is that they always had it in those Corningware coffee cups that were white with sort of the little gold flowers around the edge.
Yes, with the saucer.
And the saucer, yes. And I remember trying it, just being disgusted the entire time, and I never understood how they could do it right after dinner, because they would always, after dinner, sit down and have their cup of coffee. It was and a cigarette. And then I could never understand how they would have caffeinated coffee right before going to bed.
No, a lot of people can do that. Apparently, if you drink enough of it, you can. When I drink enough coffee that my adrenals are pounded, I can sleep right after coffee for sure.
Wow.
And the cigarette thing is interesting because I used to smoke, and when I first quit smoking, which was the most serious time that I ever quit. I quit a few times before it stuck, which has been 15 years now. But when I first quit, when I was in college, I guess, toward the end of college, I had to stop drinking coffee also because the connection between coffee and cigarettes was so strong that I couldn't drink coffee without dying for a cigarette. Because what made me think that was right now when you said coffee to cigarette, even now after all these years, I'm like, oh, a cigarette sounds good. Which I never, ever, ever think. But yes, it goes with coffee.
I remember my last couple of years of college is when I really wished I was drinking coffee, because everyone seemed to be drinking coffee to stay up and get stuff done. And I would only do Diet Coke, and then I somehow thought Dr. Pepper was even stronger, but it never really compared to, I think, the shot that people get from the coffee to get through exams and stuff.
It really doesn't. And my friend Miriam gave me a Nespresso machine, and so I had stopped caffeine for a while, but now I make espresso at home, and I'm hooked back on. Yeah. Are you familiar with the term coffee nap?
No.
So a coffee nap is when you're going to take a short power nap, and what you do is you drink a cup of coffee, and then you take a nap, 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when you wake up, the coffee hits your system. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're getting the nap before the coffee kicks in.
So you get a small nap, and then as soon as you wake up, you have the caffeine. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Coffee napping.